Deep sea divers, what are your horror stories? Warning, some audiences may find this content disturbing. View at your own discretion. Welcome to the House of Reddit. Today, we share some r/AskReddit posts from Reddit. Deep sea divers, what are your horror stories? I got the bends once. I was careful. Followed my charts and my computer. Had appropriate depths and surface time. But I didn't drink enough water, so I was all out of whack. Felt fine until I got home, mild headache. Then I woke up and it was just pain in my left arm. Elbows. Fingers. Couldn't even bend them without bad pain. My headache was intense and I was so dizzy. Called my older, more experienced dive buddy and I got rushed to the hospital. Docs got me hooked up in fluids, checked my dive logs while the decompression chamber was set up. And then got me in there with a nurse. 8 hours in a tube about the length of a car but as wide as maybe a double bed. I was on oxygen and hooked up 2 and 4 and it was so loud, with all the air rushing in. As soon as I got to depth the pain vanished. It was crazy. I'm fine now obviously. But I wasn't allowed to dive for a month, which sucked, but hey. The dives were pretty great. Free dive to about 160 feet in Dean's Blue Hole in the Bahamas. It's where a lot of the free diving world records are set. Super neat place, Google a picture. Anyway, I'd never really been past 100 feet free diving, but this was the perfect place to do it. No current, there's ropes to keep you straight and allow a slight pull back up. Scary part is that you become pretty strongly negatively buoyant after like 60 feet, so you're basically hauling ass down while doing nothing and using very little air. So I'm dazed out a bit, feeling good and counting the lines that mark depth, and all of a sudden feel pressure like my trachea is going to collapse and wake up and realize I've counted to the line that's around 160 feet or so. Very scary moment because I wasn't sure if my body could take the depth or if I had gone too far and wouldn't have enough air to get back up, which is a much slower and more air-intensive process. Around 2.5 minutes on that dive. Was out a couple of weeks ago in a lake in the Lake District, UK, and was happily laid on my back at 15 meter, feeling myself sinking into the silt a little, only hearing my heartbeat, and watching my buddy at the surface holding onto the float, breathing up. I glanced at my watch and I'd already been under for 3 minutes on that dive, and slowly pulled myself back up the line for a total dive time of 4 minutes. When you're free diving, you come up slowly more to conserve energy and air. You haven't breathed compressed air, so you haven't taken on much nitrogen. Repetitive deep free divers can get bent, but it's rare. You can come up as fast as you like, but the 10 meters to the surface pressure gradient is high, so you have to be careful, and if you don't have enough O2 in your bloodstream when you come up, sometimes your alveoli can rob O2 out of your bloodstream to keep the right lung balance, and make you pass out. I did have one scary incident where I should maybe have died, and this is the "don't free dive alone folks" warning. I was in Menorca, down at 20 meters taking photos of an octopus, alone. I was probably down for 2 minutes or so and maybe overstayed my welcome. I had a D-ring on my weight belt, so I clipped off the camera and I started to ascend, but the panic really hit, and stupidly, rather than letting the buoyancy take me home, I was weighted neutral at 15 meters, I gave in and started finning hard. Fatal mistake. This starts to use up large quantities of stored oxygen in your blood and thus you become depleted. When I got to about 6 meters, I remember feeling lovely and warm, like the sea was giving me a warm blanket hug. My wetsuit felt lovely and I felt fizzy. The next thing I remember is finning at the surface and shaking. I was finning to keep my head above water, and I eventually laid on my back and floated. I had passed out at 6 meters, the wind had resuscitated me when I got to the surface. If it hadn't been windy, I would most likely have been dead, as the wind told my lips and the receptors that I was above the surface. It's why you're taught to blow on people's lips and faces to bring them round as free divers, edited for clarity, and to make the pedant happy. Not me, but a family friend is a coral diver, and a few years ago he went missing at sea. He was diving solo, a big mistake, and failed to surface. The other crew dived down to see his equipment just sitting on the ocean floor with no sign of him, thinking he'd been taken by a shark. They then returned to the surface and tried looking for him at the surface in case he was floating. The crew couldn't see him because of the late afternoon sun reflecting on the water, and they left without him. He had to drift/swim for about 12 hours to get to an island, getting all blistered and sunburned to a crisp. When he washed up on the island in the middle of the night, the villagers thought he was a white ghost, so they were really scared of him. When they finally helped him, it turned out that no one on the island had phone credit, so it was a mission to even try and contact the mainland. He ended up home safe and sound, so there was a happy ending eventually. We found out that the reason he abandoned his equipment was because he found a rare clownfish and was trying to catch it. The equipment was quite heavy and would have restricted movement. He did catch it and he held onto it for his whole ordeal. When he got back, it lived in a fish tank in his office for a while. Moral of the story: never ever dive alone, no matter how experienced you are. I was diving in a local pond with a group of much more advanced divers, cave divers, than I, just an advanced certification at the time. I am leading the dive. As to get used to pressures and responsibilities of heading the procession, they are mentoring me. It is a Texas puddle, visibility 10 feet max, not too deep, maybe 25 feet. The known horrible visibility makes it impossible to navigate by compass. We follow a line, string, put by other divers. These lines go from one sunken item to another. So, I know I am about to hit a small sunken boat, don't remember which one. There are a few similar in a row in a same state of decay. So, I am first in the group. I get to the boat and see someone's black army boots sticking out from the inner quarters. Curious thing is, it looks somewhat new, not like items you find on the bottom. Hard to see, too much muck in the water. So, I touch the boot, thinking it is by itself, but it won't lift, like it is attached to something heavy. I put my hand further in and feel the leg continuing out, pants, the calf, and I see the second leg now. Fuck with a big letter F, right? I turn around and show a sign for the emergency ascent to the group behind me. Everyone has a sour face, no one wants to surface, but it is a rule that if one says up, others in a group must abort, no questions. They wanted me to explain with signs why, but what is a diver's sign for a cadaver? I feel like I rush toward the surface, even though trying to stay calm and take time. So, we are on the lake's surface. I have this adrenaline rush, can't breathe enough. So, I tell them there is a body down there. I see rolling eyes from everyone, once they see I am serious. A fun bunch, right? So, I describe in detail what I saw. We go down, I don't lead anymore, we make a group search pattern for the line. But once we locate it, we don't know if we should go forward or backwards, as there are a number of boats on the line and who knows in which the body is in and how far we drifted while talking it out on the surface. Well, we find all boats before finding the original one, of course. So, our customary leader goes into the cabin of the boat and we wait. I'd say he was rather courageous at this point, went right in. Then he emerges from the cloud of muck and tells us all to surface. So, gluing information together from what we learned later on. Turns out the police or some other agency had a body recovery training in the same lake the same day. When they went for lunch, they stuffed their fully dressed anatomically correct rubber doll in one of the sunken boats for a few hours for safekeeping. Well, I died a little that day. If you enjoy this video, please be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. If you have any suggestions for future videos, please let us know in the comments below. Turn on the notifications to know when we post new videos. Thank you for coming to the House of Reddit.